Hi, what's good, people? What is good? Caviar Zadi here, and have I just watched one of the best movies of this year, or certainly, if not one of the best horror movies I think I've ever seen? And that brings me to this movie review of Weapons. Now, I watched this late. I didn't watch it in the movie theater because there was a lot of other movies out around that time, and I heard a lot of things about it, but I never thought that. Yeah, let me go out to watch this. Even though I'm a massive Jordan Peele fan when it comes to these movies such as Nope, Get Out, and Us. So when there was those articles and rumors about him being disappointed that his team was unable to acquire the movie Weapons, that led me to believe, okay, there must be something with this movie that must have been really good in terms of the story and the synopsis and whatnot, right? So it was only recently me and my girlfriend was on Prime, and it was like, oh yeah, what's this? Let's just buy this movie. Prime. Let's just buy this movie Weapons. I was like, oh, I didn't even realize Weapons was on Prime yet. Cool. Let's buy it. So we bought it, and man, I was not ready. I was not ready. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was, only because there's a lot of horror movies where you can kind of see where things go, whether it's the jump scares that are just predictable, whether it's the storyline that has been regurgitated over and over and over again. But Weapons does a lot of things, not just good, but great. And I've always said this, that if you can nail doing a horror movie in the daylight, then you're onto something. Because a lot of horror tends to evolve around things happening at night, obviously because it's dark and everything like that. So that's cool. But a lot of this is, or things that occur in Weapons, is during the daytime. So I was on board at that point. When you involve children, that's also a plus, because it's very difficult and touchy to involve children in like a horror movie or thriller of some kind, right? So you got to do it in a way that it makes so much sense. Hence the reason why Children of the Corn, or even Stephen King's Tommyknockers, I think there was children involved in that. That just gives off a there was another Stephen King movie as well. I can't remember the name of it, but they add a different and unique element to a horror movie. This is exactly that too. The movie starts off slow, and the pacing is just fantastic. It starts off slow, but it has a perfect upward trajectory up until the end climax of the movie. The pacing couldn't have been done any better, and the the actors was like perfectly casted. I can't see anyone that put a foot wrong in this movie, from Julia Garner to Josh Brolin. They absolutely killed it. And Benedict Wong, really impressed with him since watching him in Top Boy UK series. To see him in these like blockbuster movies now is amazing, truly amazing. And that takes me more to the movie. So I haven't seen a horror movie this good since probably The Grudge, or maybe Us by Jordan Peele, I think, because it falls in line with those, especially with the way Jordan Peele creates his movies. But I haven't even gotten onto the story because there's so much greatness within this movie that it encapsulates what a great movie is and should be, especially when it's unique and or original. But there's creativity involved as well, because the camera work, the editing, and the transitions between scenes is phenomenal. And that's one thing I would definitely edge the the producer and director of this movie, Zach Krager, because I don't think those that camera work and transitions from each scenes would have been as good as to how Zach Krager directed Weapons to how Jordan Peele would have done so. But the story is primarily about a town and a mystery basically happens that involve a class full of school children. So obviously they hold a town hall and everyone is up in arms and is wondering where the hell is the school children, where the hell is everyone, what has happened to the kids, why have they gone missing. Lots of questions are being asked, the authorities are being involved, they all want to find out what is going on. And just like in any town, it's like it's a shock and awe kind of situation. So in those kind of predicaments, just like in modern society, in society generally, you're going to find someone to blame, and Julia Garner, the teacher of said class, is the only one to blame because she's the only teacher that had the class that had all these missing kids except for one child. We'll get to that in a second. So a lot of the blame goes directly towards her. All the parents take their own different approaches except for Josh Brolin's character, who goes one step further, which is what you would expect if your child has gone missing. And he just starts investigating a lot more further into the disappearance of all these kids, primarily his own child who was in the classroom, then to what the sheriff and the cops were doing, because sometimes they just can't be as reliable, than to your own self doing the heavy work. So he comes up with a sort of map trajectory as to watching CCTV footage where the kids were running off to, because some people's homes have rings, so you can see what ends up happening. The only thing that got me though is when all the kids left out at night, not a single parent saw their kids leaving. Like none of them would just so happen to be awake at night. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That was just one thing that caught my attention. But they all went to one house, and this house primarily has a witch. That's the best way to put it. Has a witch. And I've only seen this one time. I plan on seeing it again because it's just that good. But has a witch, and the witch essentially lures all the kids to the house for a ritual because she's dying for whatever reason. I presume cancer or something like that. And she uses the aid of her grandchild to help her with luring all the kids and getting her way. She blackmails the grandchild in doing so by threatening to unalive the kid's parents. And from doing so, the kid obeys the grandmother. So we're talking about Alex here, and the actor, great job as well, Courage Christopher. So he's only just doing what he's being said by uh, the grandmother, who's the witch, and she just goes on a tirade of essentially using witchcraft in getting people eliminated. And it's sort of like the pin is she uses like a technique, sort of like a pin doll, in some horror movies where the witch will have a pin and a doll, and you poke at the doll, it actually is hurting a real life human. She has a completely different technique, and I'm not gonna say what it is just in case you haven't seen it, even though I'm gonna say some spoilers in this, but I would want to just save some things for you to watch if you haven't seen it already. And she pretty much, in the most gruesomest ways, gets people eliminated in the movie, which then leaves people questioning what is wrong with these people. They've just lost their mind. So we get the perspectives of different people during the course of these events and how they all tie together to the end climax of the movie. So we get Justine, Julia Garner's perspective. Then after that we get Marcus Benedict Wong's perspective. And then after that we get Archer, Josh Brolin's perspective, and then they all tie in together. Another shout out, I must say, is to be given to Justin Long, who plays Gary. And I loved him in the movie. Damn. What was the movie? Damn, what was the movie? What was that? Jeepers Creepers 1. And it's great to see him back in like a horror movie, because I like Jeepers Creepers 1. That movie was fantastic. He also had his kid disappeared as well. So he just so happens to have slightly higher tech security footage for Archer, Josh Brolin, to look into and verify, to see exactly the direction where his child left the house. Correlates it with his own child in the direction his child left the house, and they all meet up at one point or one area, and that area is housed by the witch, which also has Alex, the only kid that didn't disappear in the classroom. So they start to put two and two things together. They then go to the house, and then that's when all things get crazy. Really crazy. But ultimately, this movie takes you on a really, really smooth coasting ride up until the end. And it is got so much intricate small details that gives it replay value as well. The acting was fantastic. The fact that the producers use different people's perspectives, and it actually says it on the screen: Alex's perspective, Archer's perspective, Marcus' perspective, and how they all correlate, because all these things are happening simultaneously, but you don't know why one thing leads to another thing that leads to another thing, or how one thing happened while something else is happening at the same time. And it all gets to that end point where the witch gets it coming to her. And again, if you haven't seen the movie, please watch it. It is fantastic. It is a phenomenal watch, especially for a Friday or Saturday night. Really, 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 really good. And I love the fact that it's somewhat bookend by the end, so that there is room for like a potential sequel, but it could there it could just not be a sequel. It could just be ended where it was. Primarily, what would be fantastic is if they did a prequel. A prequel for this movie, Weapons, would make all the sense in the world, I think. But here's hoping. It's a movie just above 2 hours, so it's not crazy in length, but you don't feel like it's 2 hours whilst watching it. You really don't, because it was paced perfectly well. Just the right amount of character development per character. They did such a good job with this movie. Such a good job with this movie. And I'm just curious, how much of this movie, what was the budget for this movie? Because there wasn't any crazy sci-fi involved with this. It was all pretty much filmed in one town as well. I'm just curious, how much of a budget was this movie? Because see, there we go, 38 million. And that just goes to show, that you don't need a massive budget to make an exceptionally good movie. If you're creative enough and you've got a good story, it will sell itself. See, look, compared to Us, which also was 20 million, the box office, it ended with 256 million. You don't need a big budget for a movie. The story is strong enough. It will carry it through. It will carry it for you through. It really will. And Weapons made 260 million in the box office from a 38 million budget. Fantastic. Great work, Zach Krager, who was the writer and producer. You got a fan in me. And yeah, if you haven't seen Weapons, I've just given you a feel and an idea of the movie, and I really suggest you watch it. It is a fantastic movie. And I'm not going to say that too often about movies, because I can be quite harsh with my criticism of films. But this one is an all-time great for me now. All time, because I don't see a movie that captivates this well and touches on certain particular topics in it as well as Weapons did. So that's my thoughts. That's my review of the movie. The review was quite here and there and all over the place, but you get the gist, and I recommend you watch it. Like, comment, and subscribe. And from time to time, I'll be doing movie reviews on the channel. So yeah, subscribe if you haven't. Peace.